Ah, okay, there we go. All right. Sorry about that. That's embarrassing. There was just a plug. There was just like a little tiny plug mismatch. The little plug was in, and then it was out a little bit, just enough to be horrible. Okay, sounds good. Sounds synced. Welcome to the least professional live stream on YouTube. The least professional show on YouTube. That's what I always call this. I'm sure I lost about 1,000 people here, but we're good. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing because I promise I know what I'm doing. Made in China. Not exactly. The equipment's really, really good, actually. Yeah, no, I just don't know what I'm doing, clearly. All right. Let's get on with the show. What are the exciting things that are happening? There's so many little news things right now, and I think partly that's because, dude, you rock. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. My what we call I guess my expression of low self-esteem isn't actually real. My expression of low self-esteem is self-deprecating humor. I like that kind of thing. In fact, I'm trying to do, I don't know, I told you guys about this yesterday or 2 days ago, but I'm trying to do a cartoon, like a Donald Trump type style cartoon. That's what the intro is. And it's funny because I want to add like little jokes throughout it and stuff like that. Hugs from Scotland. Thank you so much, Ellen. Ella. So I want to do these little cartoons, and my brother called me yesterday and he's like, Chris, I'm looking at some of the stuff you're talking about here with your cartoon and I'm not impressed. And I'm like, thanks, John. And he goes, this is what you need to do. You need to make some self-deprecating humor. Go ahead and put in the cartoon criticisms of Trump. I mean, not criticisms that are actual, like, legitimate criticisms, but just make fun of Trump a little bit, make fun of Pete Hegseth, make fun of some of the more conservative characters. And I'm like, John, I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to do that, because self-deprecating humor, to me, is some of the best kind of humor. You can roast yourself, right? And the reason this is so good, I think, because it's a little bit humble, and it's a little bit indicates self-awareness, and I think people respect that. All right, a Roku. Okay, so that's so funny. Okay, apparently an ad jumped on some people's streams here, so they couldn't hear me. I don't know how that works. Does YouTube play ads while I'm streaming? That's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing. Is that new? All right. Enough about self-deprecating humor. Enough about, is there anything going on in my life? No, not really. Not really. Thanksgiving was kind of boring because I'm not with the family and they didn't call me. Nobody called me. It was very sad. Yeah, not a lot of news going on in my life, but I do have a lot of news that I want to get to here with regard to politics and life. So let's go ahead and, let me go ahead and shrink this up so I can actually look at your chat real quick. There we go. Now I can see the chat as well. So if you send me a super chat, I will read it immediately. All right, so let's get into the news of the day. Okay, I did get a super chat. So ask and you shall receive. Fred Denali. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Fred Daniali, which, by the way, you used to be in my old chat for my old stream, which I appreciate you, man. It's been a while. I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, Mr. Reagan, I really love your channel and keep up the good work. By the way, are you dating another pretty Russian girl yet? No, I am not. And actually, my dad was really mad at me the other day because I told him I wasn't dating anyone, because I've been like obsessively focused on a few things for work. I tried to do this other channel, this history channel, where I was using AI to recreate things from history, and my level of where I need things to be in terms of quality, I have a very low tolerance for bad quality. Like I don't want anything that looks bad or is kind of ridiculous, on a show like that. So I have this, really high standard, and I was using AI for several of the processes to actually create the video. And it was a lot of work, a lot more work than you might think. AI isn't actually that easy yet. You can't just like plug in, this is what I want to do, and then poof, magic. You have to do like tons of little things. And believe it or not, AI isn't quite there yet to be able to automate the process, which is what I was trying to do. Oh, we got one of my very good friends, which you guys might know, and previous co-host of Toxic Masculinity, Jason Labrada, in the chat. Good to see you, Jason. He threw in $1 just so I would see his hello, although he didn't write anything. There's a tricky thing about the chat. You don't always know. You think you're writing in it, but you're not. You're just sending a buck. But it's good. You can always text me, Jason. You can always text me. All right. Let's have a look at the news of the day here. All right. Can you hear me, and is it synced? I guess that's the question. It's not the cord this time. I only set it up. I only set it up for the other thing. All right, we're gonna get this by episode 3. I think we're gonna get everything good. Okay, synced and good. We're back. All right. So let me read this again. This is from Nick Sartor. He says, major breaking news. You guys probably saw this if you watch Newsmax or Fox News or any of the TV news networks. Everybody's probably covered this already. The Trump administration has canceled citizenship ceremonies, which I think are called naturalization ceremonies, for individuals from 19 countries covered under a new travel ban. This includes a halt on green card and citizenship applications. Let's freaking go. Foreigners from these countries are receiving cancellation notices for ceremonies scheduled for as soon as this week, including those who have passed their naturalization tests. They will not be allowed to take their oath of citizenship. It applies to every single individual from these countries who entered the country on or after Biden's inauguration day. Let's see here. I should also thank Liz Jordan for the super chat for $1, but you didn't write anything, which I think sometimes when you super chat and it's difficult to know where the little text box is. Yay, sound is working. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Atomic Tabasco says, can't believe you're live. Love your channel. Well, thank you so much. Atomic Tabasco. All right, let's keep reading. This applies to every single individual from these countries who entered the country on or after Biden's inauguration day. Right. And, you know, then there's some details about this. But let me just say something real quick about this. This is really, really brutal. Like what Trump did is kind of insane. If you're in the country and you're trying to get your citizenship, it can take years. Like it's a long time. It's a big process, and they may rush some people from some countries because, you know, Biden, whatever. I don't know, but like I was married, as you guys know. Sorry. To a Russian girl, and you know, she had applied for citizenship before I met her, actually. So she was going through the process, and it took her forever. And she did eventually get through, and everything was fine. But here's the thing, and it's kind of funny. You can read some of the comments here. Mrs. B writes, Americans are growing tired of our ancestors being compared to the migrants of today. Settling in an undeveloped land and building civilization is not comparable to moving to a post-industrial nation and signing up for welfare. I love this meme because this is an argument that I make all the time. And, you know, this is something that actually, who did I first hear this from? Who's the libertarian guy that had the show on PBS in the 1980s? Who am I talking about? Why can't I? You know, sometimes when I go to Subway, I'll probably mention this multiple times on the show just to explain why my brain sometimes malfunctions. Not necessarily why, but another example. Sometimes when I go to Subway to get, like, you know, and I'm like, oh, give me the tomatoes, you know, give me the turkey, whatever, I forget the word spinach. I don't know why. Like, obviously, I know the word spinach. I've known the word spinach since I was a child. But what, I'm like, that green stuff, you know, I don't know why. I just blank. So anyway, it's not Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is awesome, by the way, but no. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So let's have a look at this. Off topic, what haircut do you get? You know, it's funny. I actually go to the same guy, you know, about, I would say once every 3 weeks, once a month. And I give him a picture of my old haircut. So, you know, just take a freeze frame of me and give it to your barber. And they'll do that. They'll give you the Mr. Reagan. All right, so the reason I wanted to scroll through here, there's some other pretty funny ones. This is also by Mrs. B. Why won't businesses pay a living wage? Because you voted to mass import people to work for less, or who work for less. And it's a great one. This is another good one. I want to deport 11 million illegals and 2 puppies. Media. 2 puppies? Why? Trump. See? Nobody cares about illegals. I love that. I thought that was great. But so here's the thing. Some people actually put, this is a great graph actually, because some people are saying that that Trump should do more than just these 19 countries. And the reason I want to scroll down is because some people have listed the actual countries. So these are the countries people are like, oh, you should do these countries too. I don't know if I agree with all of those. But let's go ahead and scroll down here. Are you not culturally enriched? Some people have posted the actual list of the 19 countries, and I want to read those out. Yeah, here we go. All right. These are the countries that are covered under this ban. Afghanistan, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Myanmar, Republic of Congo, Somalia. I think Eritrea and Somalia are like kind of the same country. They're like right next to each other. Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. And I do believe that this was a very carefully thought through list. This is not just like a random list of countries that Trump, you know, doesn't like. You know, this is what the left will say. You know, these are third world countries with a bunch of brown people in them. You know how leftists always call them brown people, which always seems a little bit disrespectful to me. You know, you kind of like lump everybody together who's not black or white. They're all the brown people, you know, or Asian, I guess. Asians would be the yellow people. if we were going to use the leftist parlance. Oh, yeah. The Herald 3117 says, America is closed. And then he writes, except for maybe some hot single conservative European ladies. I would, as you know, I would, Melted Copper 9247 writes, free Palpatine. I agree. It's not John Stossel. It's not William F. Buckley, although William F. Buckley is one of my favorites. Lou Dobbs, also awesome. Gosh, why can't I remember this guy's name? He had a show on PBS, libertarian guy. He's like super famous. Anyway, I could go through the alphabet and get it, but I'm not. It'd be a very boring show if I did that. Close the dang door. What door? What are you talking about? What the heck are you talking about? All right. So anyway, so these are the countries. They're well thought through, and here's why I think this is such a big deal. I've proposed something for a very, very long time that I don't think anyone really has listened to or paid attention to. Yes. And what I've proposed is this. You have to prioritize immigration in the following way. Low crime countries, countries with a traditional Christian culture, right? So a Christian culture for, presumably hundreds of years. And a culture that is the most similar to American culture, right? So you find cultures that are the most similar to American culture, and you say those are the countries that we want the most. So you want the safest, countries, countries with the lowest crime. Now that's actually kind of a difficult metric because some countries lie about their crime rate, so you got to be careful about that. But there's other metrics that you can use, right? So, and also well-educated people. You need well-educated people. Now, the reason for this, in my view, is because you want people who are willing to assimilate into the United States. And, sorry, I'm trying to look. Bob Ross. Yes, it was Bob Ross. Bob Ross is the libertarian that I'm talking about. What's that guy's name? God, it's just like, it's right there. I can see it somewhere floating, but it's blurry in my mind. Anyway, doesn't matter. This is going to kill me. I'm going to ask Grok. This is, I love Grok. If you guys aren't using Grok at this point, what are you even doing with your life? What is the libertarian from the 1980s that had a show on PBS? Question mark. I always say question mark. Do you really have to do that? Look at my chat. What are you talking about? All right, let's look at here. Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman is the guy. Yeah, other people got him. Anyway, so yeah, the first time that I heard that argument, it was from Milton Friedman. What was the argument? I don't remember. Anyway, never mind. All right. So, yeah, so you want people who can assimilate. You don't want people who hold on to their own culture or don't speak English. That's the other thing, right? It's got to be like people who speak English, obviously. I mean, still you have to look at the individual. Of course you have to look at the individual. But you want to take, because the thing is, people can lie. People can lie, and it's difficult to vet people that are coming in, right? I mean, not everybody has like a very obvious history of like all the bad stuff they've done. People hide the bad stuff they've done. People hide when they're bad people. So you want to bring people in from like high trust societies. You want to bring people in from cultures that are similar to ours, with high education, with low crime, with a Christian heritage at least, right? Ideally, I mean, if I had my way, I would only bring in practicing Christians. That's the only people that I would bring in. If you're not a practicing Christian, to me, I'm not going to say like you couldn't possibly integrate into American society. But the culture that we had that was, at peak American culture, which is probably like 1950 or something like that. When we were at peak American culture, we were very much a Christian nation, right? That's kind of faded away a little bit, which is really, really sad. But what happens as the United States becomes less Christian, it becomes less good, right? It becomes less great. Technologically, we seem to be doing fine, but culturally, not doing quite as well, right? Socially, not quite as well. So, but anyway, that's the only the problem with this, of course, is that if you are going to abide by these rules, the rules that I've just set out for us, what you're going to end up finding is that the people who fit the criteria are Europeans, are white people, and that's a problem for the left, right? The left is going to be like, oh, this is a racist immigration policy. I mean, that's why we started taking in people from the third world in the first place. They were saying, we're racist because we prioritize Europeans. Sorry, I had a hair somehow. Anyway, let's see. Here we go. OMG Puppies writes, Gerard Diamond wrote, guns, germs, and steel to argue IQ doesn't matter. But Occam's razor, IQ is a simple and sound theory for first world achievement and third world failure. That's a very good point. We could use IQ testing as a metric by which we bring people into America. We decide what countries we bring immigrants in from. But it could also be a test by which we bring in the individual. I think that's actually a brilliant idea. Prioritize the countries in the way that I've mentioned. So, these people are first in line kind of thing. The left will say, well, if you do that, you're probably going to bring people in from like very specific regions most of the time, right? You're probably going to be like Japan and Sweden or something like that, right? And to that, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's actually fine. Right? Whatever countries have the best people, we want to take from those places, right? And then if you put on top of that an IQ test, man, we are just getting the best of the best of the best, aren't we? I don't think IQ tests are everything, though. You can have people with very high IQ who are absolutely horrifically evil. But, that's definitely one metric that we could use. I think that's perfectly reasonable. All right, let's move on to the next story. The next story isn't actually that different. It's very much related. Let's have a look here. So this is Donald Trump talking about, and I don't know what the volume level is like on this, so hopefully I don't blast you guys. Let's have a watch of this.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. Our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. They came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. Trump is a legend, a legend. Oh, hey, we got Grand in here. Grand, I haven't seen you in a while, man. Okay, he writes, politics is downstream from culture. Culture is downstream from religion. Breitbart said that. He was right. I'm glad you see it too. That's absolutely, absolutely right. And yeah, people in the chat seem to be very happy with what Donald Trump just said. Phoenix Girl just wrote, best damn president in my lifetime. Yeah, man, yeah, okay, so anyway, Donald Trump is basically saying, look, we don't want crappy people from crappy countries. And it's sort of a continuation of what I was saying in, just a moment ago, But Trump says it much more concisely and far better than I ever could. So well done to him. All right, let's move on to the next story. We can all celebrate that. Okay, now, so we're moving on from what I would consider to be very positive news, even though it's really brutal to the immigrants who are dealing with that, and they want, they obviously want their citizenship, and Trump's just stripped it from them. Whew, brutal, but I think probably absolutely necessary. And another reason why it's good is because it sends a message to those people and to other immigrants that want to come in from crappy countries, be careful, because even if you go through the process, you might not get in if you're from one of these countries that is, that we consider to be hostile to America. Like, it's not necessarily the country, sometimes it is, sometimes it's like their government, but a lot of times it's the culture. The culture is almost always the problem. And I've talked a lot about culture on this show. I won't get into it right now, but, the culture really is. Yeah, oh, and by the way, I am doing a full video on the Somali problem. Because, by the way, guys, it's not just a problem in the United States. It's a problem like everywhere that Somalis settle, anywhere in the world. They seem to be extremely high crime people. There's something about Somali culture that is just incompatible with the West. And that video is going to come out tomorrow morning. It's a phenomenal video. I highly recommend everybody watch that. All right, so let's have a watch of this girl. I can read real quick. This is, so this, Mel Kurth, this is from Libs of TikTok. Mel Kurth, a transgender professor at University of Oklahoma, reportedly failed a student's essay about gender norms because the student used a Bible to justify traditional gender roles. Kurth, who uses she, they pronouns, claims that the student's essay lacked empirical evidence and was offensive. And I have a lot to say about this because this happened to me when I was at university. Okay, let's have a look.
Bible in it, that is, I just did the assignment and turned it in. And I talked about the Bible in it, that is, I view all of my opinions in the world through the Bible.
Samantha Fulnecki is a junior at OU. She says when she submitted an essay reacting to an article for her psychology class, she got a 0. The graduate instructor, who is transgender, was the one grading it. They called it offensive and said it lacked empirical evidence.
I gave my opinion, and not just my opinion, but that's like, the Bible says that God created male and female, and anything that's not from God or glorifying to God is glorifying to the enemy.
Here are excerpts of the essay. She says, society pushing the lie of multiple genders is demonic and believes it's against God's will.
That's what I meant by that, the demonic thing, is that I didn't mean for that to be offensive, but the truth will naturally offend people. And so I think that's why people are kind of viewing that as offensive.
So, would you have a problem having a transgender teacher?
I wouldn't, not if they're able to separate their kind of beliefs and things from grading, then I don't, really care who my professors are.
She was supposed to be graded on whether there was an understanding of the article, whether it was a clear reaction, and whether the main ideas were organized in a coherent discussion. She got a 0 out of 25 points and filed a complaint against OU, claiming her religious freedom was violated. That instructor's been put on administrative leave.
Yeah, so this actually happened to me. This actually happened to me in college. Not exactly the same thing. I had a I had a black gay professor who taught this class on, it was like black people in film. Like, it was like African Americans in American cinema or something. They always give these ridiculous titles to the classes. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know the guy was black. Like, he was very old, so his hair was white. He was bald. The little hair he had was white, and he was very, very pale. And it didn't even occur to me the guy was black. And he was constantly trying to, like, read into characters in films that were like, and trying to say that they were gay. Like, if there are two guy friends in a film, he would always say, oh, these characters are gay. And I would read through the material, and I would do my own research, and I would come to class, and I would say, I'm not sure your interpretation of this is correct, right? I'd raise my hand, I'd challenge the teacher. I was respectful, of course. But man, this guy got so mad at me. And I think he wanted to call me racist. It only occurred to me later when I found out he was black. Like, he had parties at his house and stuff, and he wouldn't invite me. He would invite everybody in the class except me. And I think he wanted to call me racist, except for my best friend in the class was black. And we would chat and joke around and laugh about the class and stuff like that. And so I think he felt like that he was kind of robbed of that opportunity. And one time I came to class, I'd run into him outside of class at like some kind of like, what was it? At some kind of opera. I went to like the opera with this girl. And he goes to class, and I was a little late for class, like 5 minutes late for class. And when I left class, a buddy of mine was like, hey, the teacher, before you got to class, he was just complaining about you the whole time. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, he's saying he ran into you, outside of class, and you were with this girl, and he's like, what is this guy doing to go into the opera? He's not sophisticated enough to go to the opera. And he's like, and why? And the girl he was with was like super beautiful. He's like, why would any girl want to date him? Like, he's like freaking out, like complaining to the class about me, which I always thought was really funny. But then, and what was really funny is throughout the year, throughout the term, other class members would start to challenge him on his propositions about these films, and we just didn't take his word as gospel. And I think he saw me as like undermining his authority. But like, if you're going to say things that aren't true, of course I'm going to challenge you on them. And that guy failed me in that class. And the crazy thing is, I did really, really well in that class. Like, I know about film. I know about film analysis. Like, it was a relatively easy class for me, But this guy, he just didn't like me, so he failed me, And that's like I don't know. University professors do have this kind of God complex. They're in front of a class all day. They say what they think is true, and the class just goes, okay, and they all just like believe them. But man, like this case is, I think, even worse. And I hope this girl sues the school and wins, so that there's like a lesson learned here. You cannot discriminate against students because they're Christian. And so I love this case. It's funny because even though it's a sad story and it's kind of like messed up, it's really a good story because this kind of thing could potentially, make major changes in the university system. My brother's texting me news stories, which is hilarious because I don't think he knows that I'm live right now. I'm live right now. Why aren't you watching? Exclamation point. Oh, he says he is watching. Sorry, John. Okay. All right, so he wants me to put this on. You want me to put it on the show now? Let's see here. I don't really want to read this story. This is my direct line. That's true. My brother definitely has a direct line to me, obviously. Okay, so he wants me to post this story. UMC pastor shocks his congregation by announcing in the sermon that he's transgender and will be transitioning as a woman. I don't even want to put that on my show. That's just so gross. Anyway, my brother calls it demonic. Yeah, probably is demonic. Some stories, guys, I don't do because they upset me too much. Like, I don't even want to. It almost feels like a contamination. Like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it anywhere near me. You know what I mean? It's just awful. All right, let's have a look at another story. This is a story out of the UK. Somebody writes, I'm with you there. Oh no, they're writing it to somebody else. All right, so why can't I switch this over? All right, we're switching over. This is a crazy story. So this girl, now you probably heard about this because Tucker brought it up a while back, and it was in the news even before that. It was on X even before that. But Piers Morgan did an interview, and I'm really annoyed with Piers Morgan for basically saying that diversity is our strength because we get a variety of cuisine. Who cares if little girls are sexually assaulted. It doesn't matter because we get curry. But he did do a pretty good interview with this girl after Tucker Carlson brought up the story to him. Then he had the woman on his show, to his credit. And let's go ahead and watch this, because this is unbelievable.
I've heard 11 police officers turned up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd left my front door open. I was waiting for my dad to come to the house. I was actually in the bath.
And 11
they opened the door themselves.
And just came in?
And came in.
And you're in the bath?
Yeah.
And what do they say to you?
Well, I heard my name, which was one female out of the lot of them.
And 10 male officers?
Yeah. And then I heard my name, and I thought, well, it might be my sister, because it didn't sound like someone who was... Because obviously I was upstairs in the bath. And then they just come up the stairs, and they didn't give me any privacy or anything. Like, I had to...
You were naked?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Disgusted and really upset. I was crying my eyes out.
And what did they say to you? What did they say they were there for?
Well, I was just asking them, can they just leave the female officer, and can they please go downstairs, as obviously I was upset and I had no clothes on, and they kind of wanted to watch me get changed, and I was very upset about that. In the end, they did send the males down the stairs, and the female officer sat with me. I was crying my eyes out. I was really upset. And then I said, well, what are you even here for? Because I was shocked. I was in utter shock. And she said, for malicious communications, hate crime and malicious communications. And I said, well, what for? And they said, we'll discuss that when we get to basically to the police station.
Yeah, anyway, pretty brutal. Hey, you posted a word we didn't like, so you're going to have to go to prison now. We're going to arrest you and try you for this horrific crime of saying the wrong thing, the thing that we don't like, the thought crime, the offensive word. And like, who is this friend of hers who ratted her out? Like, what kind of an idiot does that? Now, somebody I posted this, right? I'm not going to say it because YouTube will probably flag this and I'll get into trouble, but she texted the F word about a man that had brutally assaulted her. This is true. So this guy that she's writing about physically assaulted her. She had like a cracked skull, and like she had, I think she had some like swelling around her brain and stuff. I mean, it was pretty vicious. Brutally assaulted her, and 11 police officers stormed into her home to arrest her. Her assailant was never charged. That's the other crazy thing. Her assailant, the guy who attacked her, was never charged. This is a guy apparently that she worked with. The UK has fallen to leftist totalitarianism, and I really believe that. And somebody wrote, so people are pretty horrified. But somebody wrote, okay, so this guy, the educator, Dan Explains It, wrote, also, she's from Merseyside. He goes, I lived nearby. And he says, this F word is generally used there a lot, and it's used to describe weak beta guys. It's nothing to do with sexuality. It's not hateful. The American equivalent of, the American equivalent would be soy boy or cuck, I guess. But here's the thing. There's also other uses of the word as well. Cigarettes. There's actually a dish, like a meatball, in parts of England that uses this.
I've heard 11 police officers.
So, it's I don't know. Like, what do you guys think's going on in England? Like, what is wrong with those guys? Like, why have they completely lost their minds? You can't say anything over there. You can't say anything that somebody might find offensive. But what's crazy about that is somebody could say, oh, the clouds look nice today. You could say anything completely innocuous. And anybody could just claim, I was offended. And then what, you get arrested because somebody says they were offended? I don't know, the UK's got to like sort themselves out. They've like lost their minds, really. Somebody wrote, Winsky Pinsky wrote, I thought it meant a bundle of sticks. It does mean a bundle of sticks, technically. I don't know how that term become associated with homosexuality. I have no idea. I should look into the etymology. Why not? All right, this is a post from Camus. It's quite a long post, but I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to play it for you because it is interesting. This is an ex-wife of, like a tech billionaire. I don't actually know who the tech billionaire is. I didn't do enough research into this, but let's have a listen.
But what happened around the pandemic is that this whole other segment, what I don't think many of the tech mafia wives realize is that they were used to set the groundwork for what was called like the reset, what is called generally as like the reset by the Klaus Schwabs
Like
of
the
world.
Great Reset.
The Great Reset. Yeah. They openly talk about this Great Reset.
Yeah.
So the tech wife mafias, I believe, were kind of being conscripted in many ways, and their money especially was being conscripted in to set the groundwork for the Great Reset.
Yeah. Specifically through
a network of NGO advisors, relationship with Hollywood, relationship with Davos, and their own companies. So if you look at like who's on these boards, who hangs out with each other, how the culture of tech wealth works, like Silicon Valley tech wealth, and that small group of people responsible for a huge amount of money and a huge amount of NGO activity across the United States. It's a really small group of people, and it's a really small group of people making these decisions.
Yeah.
And then completely blind to everything else that's going on and how their groundwork is being used to then enable these other policies, these Great Reset policies. Now, what this group of women doesn't realize is that in their haste, these women are all very busy.
Yeah.
They have multiple properties. They have tons of staff. They have staff issues, chronic staff issues. Their kids are busy. Their kids oftentimes have some health issues as well. A lot of them have relationship issues with their husbands. And a lot of them themselves are like medicated on SSRIs and antidepressants and all of that because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, so it's chaos, and these women find their meaning through their philanthropic work.
Yeah.
And they find themselves, like I would find myself, that was my self-worth, was my philanthropic work, and I really believed in it. I really believed that I was giving Black communities a chance to like rise up out of oppression. I really believed that I was helping Indigenous communities rise up out of oppression. And now that I look back and see how all those grants were forming, you know, because my version of success is those communities are actually uplifted.
Yeah. Not just more money pumped into them.
Not just more money. No, the problems of the community have gotten worse. Crime in the community has gotten worse. Mental health in the Native community, the Indigenous community, has gotten worse. They will even say, the Indigenous community will even say that their biggest supporters in Congress have been Republicans, but yet they continue to vote Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is this, it's like, the whole model is broken. The whole model makes everybody worse off. And now we're contending with the frickin' Great Reset that we're now realizing is a terrible idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that many of our climate change issues are geoengineering issues.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is like, at the end of the day, they always go to that. They're like, but climate change. And then,
yeah,
and
that
was
really
like,
is the end all be all. Like, you have to let us do this because of climate change.
Yeah. Social justice and climate change. It always boils down to those two things, and it gets progressive women 100% of the time.
It does. It does. So
Yeah. I often actually say that the entire Democrat apparatus is designed to manipulate gullible women. And when I say gullible women, I mean leftists, obviously. I think that there are some gullible men as well. that fall for this stuff, primarily like Hollywood actors. But yeah, the whole Democrats. See, I'm making another video, which I implore everyone to watch, about the deaths of the Christians around the world. Not just in Nigeria, although Nigeria is like a huge part of it. But believe it or not, Christians are the most targeted religious group on earth. Like, they have the most abuse, they're killed the most. There's I don't know what the deal is. People really hate Christians all over the world. They want to kill them constantly. So I start, talking about this, and I start talking about. Thank you, John K8806. That's my brother, everybody, if you want to say hi. I think it's my brother. He says, "Gotta run. Great job with the show, bro." Thanks, Johnny. But anyway, you should have sent me a super chat because I might have missed that. But anyway, yeah, look, there's a lot of problems in this world, a lot of victims in this world, people who genuinely suffer and are good people that would actually benefit from some degree of charity. I'm a little bit skeptical of charity because I think the vast majority of charity money actually goes into the bureaucratic machine, like the management class doesn't act. I think something like 10% of charity actually gets to the people that want it. Some number like that is crazy. So I'm very hesitant to give to charity just because I'm so cynical. I'm not saying people shouldn't give to charity. I think they should, but you need to really be careful about who you're giving the charity to, like what organizations. You want a lot of that money to go to the person you're trying to give it to, not to the bureaucratic machine that funnels the money to them. Because just so much of that money gets lost. But anyway, I digress. The point I'm trying to make is there are groups that are suffering. There are Christians. There are, I would actually say, like, probably young white men are in America anyway, are probably the most marginalized group in America right now. Straight Christian white men in America who grow up in poverty are probably the most disadvantaged. But we don't target them at all. Like the left has I guess their 5 favorite groups. What is it? It's like black people, women, Muslims now. I don't think they were on the list 20 years ago, but they're on the list now. LGBTQ and immigrants, right? These are the 5 groups that the left they're in love with. It's like their default setting. And now why are they so obsessed with these groups? I think part of it is because, it's almost like a brand for them. But the other thing is it's also voting base, of course, but they also don't necessarily like to think. Nobody actually wants to sit there and think who's really marginalized, who's really oppressed, who's really suffering. They just want to go, we're just going to assume these groups are suffering, and we're going to assume the person causing the suffering is the evil, straight, white Christian male, and that gives you a beautiful dichotomy. It's sort of like, a simple story, simple movie, like Star Wars, okay? The rebels are the good guys, the empire's the bad guys. That's fun, that's great. Our human brains, we love that. We love a good guy and a bad guy. And that's how the left operates. They just go, these are the bad guys, the straight white Christian men, they're the bad guys. And they go, these are the good guys, these are the victim groups. Well, actually, they're not even the good guys. The black people and the women and the LGBTQ, some of them they raise up as heroes, whatever, within the group. But for the most part, they're considered like the victim group. Who's the hero? You're the hero. Why are you the hero? Because you're voting Democrat, right? So they've got this beautiful system where you've got the villains, the victims, and you can be the hero to save them. And that's how the Democrat Party works. And so many lazy, gullible, leftist women, they just absolutely love that because they can play hero. They can kind of cosplay as a hero whilst not ever actually helping anybody at all. And this woman just basically validated everything that I have thought about this for a very long time. All right, this is one that kind of popped up that you guys are going to get a kick out of this. This one's pretty funny. So we're moving on. This woman writes, this is Megan Hartbelow. I have no idea who this is, but this was trending on X today. She writes, "Hi, white people. If you're using GIFs or memes of black people in your comments or reactions, it's considered digital blackface. Please don't do it." I'm posting this because I have seen this happen a lot, and I'm trying to share what I'm learning. Let's do better than that. So she's basically saying, you're not allowed to respond to anybody with like a black guy going, you know, there's like the famous one of the guy going, no, you're not allowed to do that. No, no black people pulling faces. You're not allowed to communicate with that because it's digital blackface. So let's have a look here at some of the responses to this. You big dummy. Oh, that's a good one. I'll do whatever I want all the time. Oh, that's a good one. All right. So obviously everybody has naturally responded with quote-unquote digital blackface. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have a lovely conversation with the left, I don't know if this was a tweet. See, I don't think this was a tweet. I think she posted this somewhere else. It does look like Twitter, though, or Twitter, X. Let's see. Megan Hart below. I can look her up and see. Shall we look? Meg Hen _ Hart below. Okay. I thought I read that it was, let's look, but I think I read that she had posted this on Instagram or something like that. Yeah, there's no, you can't click that. So, so yeah, I don't even know if she even has an account on X. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. That's, you know, the left is trying to police our memes now. You know, the left can't meme, so of course they're going to try to police our memes. All right, let's move on to the next one, because we don't have too much time left. In fact, I'm supposed to be done, but since I started late, let's go ahead and go through the rest of these. All right, so this is something that I posted that did better than I expected that it would. So I'm just going to read it to you because I think it's an interesting perspective. I wrote, I think a lot of people don't believe that gays are born this way because of the flamboyant lisp. I'm paraphrasing my own tweet here. Most gay men speak normally growing up, and then one day they decide that they're going to start talking like they're gay. That's a decision. You weren't born with a genetic predisposition to talk gay, and it's not just in the US. There's a British version, they call it being camp. There's an Australian version, Scottish, German. And you know, you don't need to actually be, that's the other thing, you don't need to actually be naked in your gay parades. That's also a choice. There's a lot of things about homosexuality that are absolutely conscious decisions. So when you claim that homosexuality itself is somehow biological, it strains credulity. Anyway, point I was just trying to make there is like, I don't know, man. I don't buy the whole born this way thing. Are there gay men who are born that way? Okay, maybe. But like, they've done studies on guys in prison. Guys in prison will like be gay in prison because there's no women in prison. And then they get out of prison and they're not gay anymore. They just like, they just have normal relationships with women. So what's the deal with that, right? That's obviously not, they weren't actually born gay. And there's guys that like involve themselves, let's call it, with like farmyard animals. You think they were born attracted to goats? I don't think so. You know, I think it's just like that's what's available for that guy, so that's what he's going for, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think we need to ask this question more often. I don't think people like feel like they're allowed to talk about this, and I feel like that, you know, that's wrong. You know, it irritates me because we should be allowed to talk about everything in society. You know, like we should be able to ask those questions. And I don't think anybody asks that anymore. We just all kind of like accepted gay people are born that way. And it's just, I don't think it's true. Is there a small percentage? Maybe, but certainly not most of them. Most gay men, I think, are just doing it by choice. And because of that, I don't think that they can be a protected class. This is something I learned from Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo Yiannopoulos made the point a long time ago that gay people figured out, like in the 90s, that okay, black people have special privileges in America, right? Special protections for being black. They were born that way, right? You can't fire them just because they're black, right? But I think at the time you could fire somebody for being gay because you disagreed with their lifestyle choice. And then at some point they said, okay, well, what if we say it's not a lifestyle choice? What if we say that we're born this way? Then we can get legal status as well. Then we can get protected legal status. And so that's how that evolved, according to Milo. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So it's a big lie, guys. And I think we need to normalize challenging that lie. Anyway, moving on. Next story. Justice Thomas forces the New Jersey AG, this is a beautiful moment. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys. Forces the New Jersey AG's chief counsel to admit the state issued a subpoena for a pro-life pregnancy center's donation without receiving a single complaint about the organization. Issued a subpoena. Yeah, so they were like investigating this pro-life pregnancy center basically because they were pro-life. And, you know, it's a contrast to your, you know, to your abortion clinics, you know, Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. And this is just a beautiful exchange. I just want you guys to listen to this.
Did you have complaints that formed the basis of your concern about the fundraising activities here?
We certainly had complaints about crisis pregnancy centers that petition.
No, about this crisis pregnancy center.
So I think we've been clear from the outset that we haven't had complaints about this specific.
So you had no basis to think that they were deceiving any of their contributors?
I don't think that's correct, Your Honor. I think we had carefully canvassed all of the public information that is provided on the website of First Choice in making a determination that we wanted to initiate an investigation.
But you had no factual basis?
I don't think that's true, Your Honor. I think, for example, you could take a look at a comparison between the donation page for First Choice that we have carved out from the very beginning.
So you had no complainants?
We had no complaints, but the state governments, federal government, initiate investigations all the time in the absence of complaints where they have a reason to suspect that there could be potential issues of legal compliance. And look, it could be the case based on our investigation, when we look at documents, when we look at information, that ultimately will determine that First Choice isn't liable for any violation
well,
of the law.
That just seemed to be a burdensome way to find out whether someone has a confusing website. But you said earlier that you did not agree with their characterization of why they were being put to this. And it would seem that the obvious way to refute that was to say we had 100 complaints. But you say you have no complaints, but rather you looked at the website and their materials and you think it could have been misleading. So why is your characterization any better than theirs?
So, Your Honor, I'd point you to the Turner Declaration, which is at pages 400 to 401 of the Joint Appendix, which lays out...
I just love Clarence Thomas. I love that he can see what's going on here, right? So he's giving this guy an opportunity. Let me just get it off this guy's ugly face. There we go. That's a much more beautiful face. He's given this guy an opportunity to present any reasonable case for going after these people, for investigating this pro-life charity. The guy can't give a straight answer, right? He can't give a legitimate answer. There is no reason to... Now, I hadn't heard about this story until listening to this. But I guess here's the reason I wanted to play this for you guys. Justice Clarence Thomas is probably one of the most beloved conservatives in America. I mean, I love him. Honestly, I would say if you did a poll of conservatives around America and that you said, who's your favorite Supreme Court justice? This guy would win by like 97%. We all love Clarence Thomas. Now here's, the reason I want to bring that up is because, you know, we're constantly being lambasted on the right. Still, it's crazy to me that we're still lambasted for being racist. You're racist, you're racist. And I make this point a lot on my show. We've got to stop caring about being called racist. We've got to just embrace it. You're going to call us racist, it's fine. You know, it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter who my friends are. You're going to call me racist. You know, I could adopt 3 black kids and you're going to call me racist, you know? So it doesn't really matter. They're going to call us racist, guys. We can't care about them calling us that. We have to talk about the stuff that matters in America, regardless of what the names they call us. We can't be afraid of that. And to me, like, this is like a perfect evidence to, you know, just to prove to those who are skeptical. Are white people, are, you know, white conservatives specifically, are white conservatives, are white Republicans racist against black people in America? Well, I don't know how you could make that argument if our favorite Supreme Court justice is Clarence Thomas. But the reason he's our favorite Supreme Court justice is because of the content of his character. It's because of his mind, his brilliant mind, and his, you know, beautiful heart. He's a good man. I don't know how you could look at the people who believe that and be like, you're a racist. It's like the craziest thing to me. But anyway, I just thought this was a good example to bring up Justice Clarence Thomas and how much we all love him. All right, I'm gonna move on because as much as I love this story, there's some funny stuff that I want to end the show with. And I think you guys are gonna get a kick out of this. All right, I can't figure out if this is real or a skit. Now, probably most of you are going to be, you know, what do you call it? Like, my buddy thinks it's a skit for sure. Some of you are going to be very pessimistic and be like, oh no, it's a skit. I can tell it's a skit. But I'm not so sure because this is done really, really well. But tell me what you think after we watch this.
Open it.
Dude.
What?
Why would you come over?
What? You're not happy?
Dude, I'm going on a trip next week.
What does next week have to do with anything?
Dude. No, cause...
Do you know what that is?
Bro.
Do you know what that is?
Why did you come over? You know I have a trip next week and it's for work. I can't miss that.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, but I can't miss my trip.
What?
But
why would you have to miss your trip?
It's not like a funny joke either. You know my grandma is like not okay right now. And
what?
No, it's not funny. I don't even know why
what
you're
is that?
like that's
What
funny.
is that?
You have COVID.
Open it.
All right, sorry, my sound's off. Sorry, I screwed that up. I'm turning the sound off so that you guys don't hear the... Anyway, it doesn't matter. Here's what I want to say. I love this. I don't know if it's a skit or not, but if it is a skit, it's basically perfect. The acting's perfect, right? I've done a little bit of acting before. I've studied acting. You know, I'm in a few video games and TV shows and stuff. And let me tell you, if this is a sketch, that is perfect acting. Like the way the guy responds and everything is absolutely perfect. But the story's almost like, it's almost like a perfect joke, right? It's like setup, 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 payoff. Like that's almost too clean of a joke. That's the only reason I think maybe it's a skit. But man, I love that. I absolutely just love that. I thought that was genius. So obviously the joke is that he thinks that it's a COVID test strip, in case you guys didn't get that. But anyway, because that was kind of just said at the end. Man, I hate that I didn't turn my volume on. Sorry about that. All right, I thought that was funny. I don't know, maybe you guys thought that was lame. But let me move on to the next one. Okay, this one's also pretty funny. Let's have a watch.
Somebody tell me why I have a beautiful house, warm, cozy, and yet this is where my husband is. I'm sorry, what? Somebody tell me why
All right, so most people responding in the comments were like, maybe if you weren't nagging him all the time, he wouldn't have to go into the garage. Like, make the home more inviting by like, shutting the heck up or something. They were kind of a bit vicious to her. But this was my response. We engineer, design, build, and buy houses for women. Houses only exist because women exist. If the world was only men, we would all live in castles. But not just castles, tree houses, caves, Men don't necessarily need the comfort of like a cozy, beautiful house, with like pictures on the wall, and we don't necessarily need this sort of like high level sophistication. The reason I say men would all build castles is because there is this kind of an ego thing, right? We do like to build things, first of all, and secondly, we like to build things to show off to other people, like, look at how rich I am, look at how cool I am, look at how, whatever. And so, there will be that kind of competition even if women didn't exist, but yeah, we wouldn't be building cozy houses for ourselves. We don't need that. We do that for you. So all the women in the world, with your sheetrock and your, comfortable beds and all the, the luxuries that you have in life, men did that for you, just so you know, over the various centuries. That's funny. This guy, Sean, formerly artist John Cusack, John Cucksack, nice. Cuckask. Anyway, what doesn't matter. He writes, my ex-wife couldn't read a pregnancy test. I was the one to tell her that that's no control line. She thought it was a control line. So she was pregnant. Oh, that's kind of funny. That's kind of nice. I had a horrible situation once where my ex... I had a girlfriend once. Oh my gosh, this was a terrible story. She went in and she took a... she went in for like just a regular checkup at the doctor, and they ran through a bunch of blood tests and stuff like that. And they sent her bill, and on the bill they had listed all the tests that they had done for her blood. And on the list, it was all like a bunch of like STD tests, so like gonorrhea and all this, all that stuff. AIDS, I think, was on there even. Like there was like a million to HIV. There's all these tests that they had done. And so she got this bill in the mail, and it wasn't immediately obvious that it was a bill. So she called me freaking out because she was like, I have like every STD. And I'm on the phone like, how is that possible? I'm like, who are you sleeping with? What's going on? And we're both kind of freaking out. And then I was like at work or something, and like an hour later I got a call back going, okay, the nurse called, and it was just the bill, and everything's negative, and I don't have anything. And I was like, whoo, man, dodged a bullet there. Anyway, that was a very difficult hour of my life. I shouldn't tell that story. That's a terrible story. All right, here's another funny one.
Some societies, like Koreans, they might have a God complex, but they don't have a history of oppressing another group of people.
Each other, right?
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, what the?
What do you mean?
You don't think Asians they didn't oppress?
Koreans didn't have slaves. We didn't fly.
Did Koreans have slaves?
Korea had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history. Holy shit!
You guys are scumbags.
We're scumbags.
I absolutely love that. I just love that. Like, I constantly say this on my show. Like, whenever I deal with like civil rights movement, or how people perceive white people in America, I always make the point, like, we are the least racist people in the world. There's like no society on earth that has such a strong ethic against racism as white Europeans. Like, whether we're in North America or Australia or South Africa or Canada or wherever, white people are like, racism is bad. Every other culture on earth is like, racism is not only are they like, racism is okay, they're like, if you're not racist against that group that our culture hates, you're an idiot. Like, they're obviously inferior to us. They're horrible. Like, every culture on earth hates somebody, and like racism is like ingrained in the culture. And then you go to like, Northern Europe or the United States or something, and they're like, No, racism is terrible. Like we're like the nicest people on earth, but we get the most crap for being racist. Ridiculous. All right, last one, guys. Last one. Now, this is not funny, but this is one of my favorite comedians. His name's Jimmy Carr. But this was a really good point. They put some sappy music to it, so that's kind of stupid. But the point is really important. I think it's really important to close the show with something like this. This is very, very good.
You get used to how great your life is. No one had a hot shower until 50 years ago. So I try and do this thing when you stand in a hot shower. George Mack, my friend, pointed this out to me. Went, well, look, when you stand in a hot shower, just for a moment, just go, well, no one that you admire from 100 years ago had this simple pleasure in life. And when you look at the world that we live in, we're like, there's been 100 billion people ever, right? We are in the top percentile in terms of the luck that we have had. The lives, like the calorific intake that we just take for granted, the fact that our children don't die, in the first year, the modern medicine and our lives and the entertainment that we get. We're living like kings. And yet, life has never been objectively better and subjectively worse, because the nature of humanity is our desires are mimetic. So we've got this thing where we sort of, how happy are you? Well, it's your quality of life minus envy.
I just love that calculation. What do you call it? An equation. I love the equation of your happiness in life. I would actually change that. I would say your contentment in life. A person's contentment is the equation, your quality of life minus envy. Right? It's not necessarily your happiness, because I think happiness is more related to the people in your lives, and maybe your sense of self-satisfaction, like how successful you've been able to become, like have you achieved your goals, are you achieving your goals, that sort of thing. I think it's like your level of success of your goals probably minus your shortcomings or your frustrations about not achieving your goals. I think that may be a better calculation of happiness. But in terms of contentment, how content are you with your life? Yeah, I think that is totally right. Your quality of life minus envy. If you have, because almost everybody today, even really pretty poor Americans, like really like low, I would say lower middle class Americans, live far better than I would say upper middle class Americans did in like the 1950s. Even like upper class Americans would have like the tap that was like cold here and hot here. Cold, well, let me get rid of this so you can see what I'm doing. Cold and hot taps. Now we have one, and you can move the lever to, how hot do you want it, how cold do you want it. We all have showers, like you said, most people just didn't have showers 50 years ago. Well, maybe it's more than 50 years ago, maybe it's like 100 years ago, but yeah, I mean, showers are pretty new. Obviously the iPhone is astonishing. You have access to every book ever written in the history of humanity. You can learn a new trade off of YouTube. A buddy of mine has decided that he's going to start making out of blocks of wood pipes to smoke. Pipes. Tobacco pipes. Not the weird ones. Tobacco pipes, like old-fashioned tobacco pipes. He's going to make these beautiful pipes. He's going to start selling them. That's what he wants to do. And you know how you learn to do that? YouTube. You can do anything you want in this world now. You have access to all the entertainment in the world. Every day you could just sit there for 24 hours a day and just watch movies, TV shows, play video games. You could just be entertained with new content every second of every day for the rest of your life. It's incredible. I mean, granted, I think we've really lost something with society. We don't go outside as much. We don't interact as much. We're not as social. I think there is something lost. I think we've lost a lot in terms of culture, in terms of society. But in terms of like quality of life, in terms of like, technological achievements, the toys that we have, the engineering that we have, like, yeah, house prices have gone up, but the quality of the houses that are being built, I think, are actually, is actually significantly better. You can buy a bigger house for cheaper now, I think. Maybe that's not right. Well, housing is a bad example because that's all gone crazy. But the point is, we just take for granted how good our lives are now, how cheap everything is. You can get clothes so super cheap, like, you know, compared to like when I was growing up. This is really true. When I was growing up, all of our clothes, I think every single item of clothing I ever had as a kid, up until like probably age, you know, probably I was a teenager, was used, was like gotten from like a secondhand store. Because we were poor growing up. We just didn't have money. I mean, we weren't poor. Okay, we weren't poor. Well, we were like lower middle class. Because I think part of that, the reason was because my parents would take every dollar they had and they would reinvest it in my father's business, which is actually very successful now. But they were very careful with money. They grew up with the kind of like, their parents grew up during the Depression, so they had the Depression mindset as well. My mom's still like that. I'm like, Mom, you don't need to clean that. You can bring somebody in for that. Like, she'll just do this housework that is completely unnecessary for her. You know, she's retired now. Both my parents are retired. And they have enough money. They can really like hire people to do just about everything they need. You know, they're good. But my mom doesn't care. She'll go out every day and feed the horse. She'll go out and feed the cows. She'll go out and, you know, we don't hire people to do things. We go do, like, not the last time, but the time before that, I come over and there was like something wrong with the well. So we go dig up the well ourselves and we replace the whole, you know, all the pipes and everything. So it's kind of nice actually to go back home on the farm and actually do like man work, since basically my job is like bitch work. You know, I'm talking in front of a camera, you know, like it's not masculine to talk in front of a camera. There's nothing manly about that. So it's nice to go home and work on the farm. You know, I get to herd cattle with a four-wheeler. I get to build fences, you know. It's kind of fun. So I like going back home occasionally. All right, so the last thing that we've got for the day is the meme of the day. It's actually called, I call this segment, even though it's not always racist, the racist meme of the day. Next time, I think we're going to end the show there, unless you guys have some kind of interesting thing you want to say. I think I'll just end it in the regular way, which is you guys have to remember, it's not that all liberal friends are ignorant. It's just that they know so much that is not so. I don't know. I think everybody knows that I got that from Ronald Reagan, right? It's like a famous Ronald Reagan quote. And my name is Mr. Reagan on YouTube. So anyway, at one point I wanted to, even now really, I would love to like get rid of the Mr. Reagan thing, because even though I like it, it was really good for branding my show and it helped me out. Almost every other YouTuber has gotten rid of their YouTube name. Like Sargon of Akkad, everybody knows him now as Carl Benjamin. Believe it or not, Candace Owens used to be called Red Pill Black. That was her name when she started YouTube. And like, I would say, for a while there, everybody had these like fake names. And I chose Mr. Reagan as a branding thing because I thought, well, I want everybody to know immediately that I'm like a strong, traditional Christian conservative. So I'll just call myself Mr. Reagan. And now nobody knows my real name. So anyway, Chris Coles, Mr. Reagan. signing off. I will see you guys tomorrow. Same Mr. Reagan time, same Mr. Reagan channel.